So, as I finished my Tomb Raider video, I got into a Discord call with my friends and asked them to give me ideas. I did have some, but more input is never a bad thing. One of them said some random games like Armored Core 6, which is a bit too big of a franchise. It's not all in PC as I do not have a console and the original games are probably unplayable considering it's from software and gameplay is not their forte. But then the other friend that was in the call said something. He said, review Dead Space. So I said, you know what? That's not a bad idea. My original idea was to do the Crisis Trilogy, but as I had at least Dead Space 2 in my library, I considered it, and then I went to have dinner. I come back to my PC and open GOG, and then I see the Bioshock Trilogy, so I look stuff up. When did Dead Space release? The first one in 2008, the second one in 2011, and the third one in 2013. Then I thought, those are some interesting dates. I then looked up the Bioshock releases. The first one released in 2007, the second one in 2009 and Infinite in 2013. So I noticed, I don't want to say a pattern, but something interesting because those two alongside the Mass Effect trilogy being released in 2007, 2010 and 2012 respectively, I noticed that a lot of great trilogies released in that span between 2005 and 2015, and so I made a list of future videos. I currently have the Crisis Trilogy releasing in 2007, 2011 and 2013, the Bioshock Trilogy which I just mentioned, the Mass Effect Trilogy, the Resistance Trilogy releasing in 2007, 2008 and 2011, the Ezio Trilogy releasing in 2009, 2010 and 2011, the Dead Space Trilogy, the Dragon Age Trilogy, Belgar is a social experiment, releasing in 2009, 2011 and 2014, the Gears of War Trilogy, launching in 2006, 2008 and 2011. This one has more games, but let's be honest, after those three nobody cares. There's also the Witcher Trilogy releasing in 2007, 2011 and 2015. And finally, if we stretch the years a bit more, we have the Metro Trilogy releasing in 2010, 2013 and 2019. I tried looking for more trilogies that released during those years. Granted, we can stretch the years a bit as I did with the Metro, because there were 6 years between the second and third, but still, and I couldn't find any other. Maybe I didn't look too deep, because let's be honest, that's at least 1, 2, 5, 8, 10 videos that I can make, this being the second one of those, and considering how I haven't played most of these, and if I have, it was 15 years ago and I don't remember. So anyway, all of this to say that I will probably deem this new quote-unquote series of mine something like the greatest trilogy or a decade to remember, because they were all released in the span of a decade, now that I think about it, even the Metro one. Just like some people deem the period between 2008 and 2013 the zombie era, I'm gonna say that the period between 2005 and 2015 is the gaming trilogy era. So many great trilogies either released or started between those years, and I just wanted to say that I have a bunch of ideas for games now. Anyway, that's enough stalling, let's go into the Bioshock trilogy, shall we? So, on 1997, Ken Levine from Looking Glass Studio decides to create Irrational Games, called Ghost Story Games as of 2025 funnily enough. Some of you might know that name not because of Bioshock, but because of System Shock 2. Originally the game was planned as drones that gather resources while being protected by something and a group of individuals trying to steal said resources. Pretty obvious where I'm going with this, they would end up being the Little Sisters, Big Daddies and the Splicers in the end product. The original story was maybe I'm misinterpreting something, I'm sure I am, but as far as I can read, the protagonist was originally a cult deprogrammer. What's that? Well, it's in the name. Your objective is to deprogram members of cults. What kind of cults? This is... I wish I was joking, but the fucking example that they originally used was in a space station, and one example was a lesbian. You can't make this shit up. So I got that one wrong, that's just an example Ken Levine said of what a cult deprogrammer does, not that the original story was gonna be that, so sorry about that. Anyway, they actually struggled to find a publisher until the rumors started circulating rumors to a spiritual sequel to System Shock, so they decided to fully revamp the game. The second version was in a Nazi lab, with mutated human experiments becoming the same idea as before, but they added the plasmids and the Eve, along with the cameras and the stealth, although let's be honest, stealth is not what Bioshock 1 is known for. Anyway, in 2006, 2K acquired Irrational and the budget increased. To the surprise of absolutely nobody, there was a lot of crunch in the development along with internal problems as the team extended from 6 people to 60. And along with the standard too high of an ego to accept anything attitude from some new hires, the playtest in 2007 was mostly negative. Yeah, I know, surprising. It was too dark, and I think people meant that literally, like they didn't know where to go. Also distrusting Atlas, which, let's be honest, that would have made the plot twist of the game much worse if you just distrusted Atlas from the start, so I'm glad they changed that. Still, the main concern for the official release was the protagonist, which I just learned is called Jack, at least according to this article I'm reading. Biggest concern being, empathy and whatnot, which as you can see, that is still a problem with the game, but not really. The protagonist is not really the biggest point of the game, everything else is, which is why people remember the game on a really high note. So, funnily enough, as I'm writing this and recording it, I came to the realization that there's not much to say about this game when it comes to a deep dive, quote unquote, because the story is extremely simple. There's no extreme lore to share, and at least in Bioshock 1 the story is very self-contained. Maybe there are a ton of details, but let's be honest, the number of diaries in the game are so massive that I didn't listen to most of them. So, instead of a story breakdown, let's just do a straight up review, part by part. Let's start with what you see first, the HUD. I quite like it, granted once you start actually playing it's a bit wonky because of the keyboard layout, but still, it works well. It has this, maybe it's just me, underwater feeling, which, ironic to say the least. Other than that, the best word to describe it is functional. It works, and that's about it. Graphically speaking, I am playing the remasters and this game looks fine. It's not some insane graphical achievement, but it looks fine. The music was pretty good actually. Welcome to Rapture is a banger. And now for the two most important parts, the gameplay and the story. Let's start with the gameplay. So the game is a shooter, straight up a shooter. You have two big parts, that being weapons and plasmids. Plasmids are this sort of magic that you can use, like for example there's a shock attack that inflicts paralysis. Groundbreaking, I know. The plasmid system is used by consuming Eve, which is just mana. You can upgrade your catalog of weapons, including a pistol, a machine gun, a shotgun, which is incredibly busted, a grenade launcher, a crossbow, and I want to say flamethrower, but it also uses nitroglycerin and shock stuff. Anyway, you can also upgrade your plasmids, and there's a lot of them, but because there's a lot and the game is not exactly long, I used like 3 of them. Besides that, it's just a combination of use plasmid to inflict effect, shoot them, use plasmid, shoot them, rinse and repeat. It might sound boring, but because the game is not 200 hours long, it's perfectly fun. Not that there aren't bad parts in the game, we'll get to that. So, let's get into the story, shall we? So your name is, what was it? Jack? I don't know. Doesn't matter. Your name is Player. You are in a plane with some sort of gift from your parents in your hand when suddenly the plane crashes in the middle of the Atlantic, close to this lighthouse. So you decide to go in. Not about to die now, are we? So we enter Rapture. What an iconic location, an underwater city created by Andrew Ryan, but after a war that happened inside between Ryan and a guy named Fontaine, he became pretty much paranoid, believing we are with the CIA for the Americans or the KGB for the Russians, I believe. Point being, he thinks we are a special agent. Suddenly, a guy named Atlas starts talking with us. Throughout the game, he will help us go from point A to point B. From this point onward, the story focuses on helping Atlas get back his wife and son, who are in a sub. Once there, Andrew Ryan sends splicers and blows up the sub, making us want to help Atlas get revenge on Ryan. After this, multiple small plot points happen. Just know that your main objective is to get to Ryan's office. Once there, he sets the place to blow up, but you get to his office and he starts talking to you, and the big plot point of the game is revealed.
Stop, would you kindly? Would you kindly? Powerful phrase. Familiar phrase.
Would you kindly? Would you kindly get this? Would you kindly find that? Would you kindly find that? Would you kindly find? Would you kindly get this thing? Would you kindly head to Ryan's office and kill the son of a bitch?
Sit, would you kindly? Stand, would you kindly? Run! Stop! Turn. A man chooses. A slave obeys. Kill! A man chooses! a slave obeys. Obey!
I'm gonna be honest, I genuinely did not expect this. The moment Ryan said that that phrase was some sort of living agent activation, I went, what? So, turns out we are the son of Andrew Ryan, born just 4 years ago to an affair with Jasmine Jolene, and that Frank Fontaine, who was believed to be dead at the time, basically created us to act as somebody pleases as long as they say, would you kindly. Plot twist, we kill Andrew Ryan and stop the destruction of Ratchet, but that's not the only thing that we did, as Atlas was actually Frank Fontaine the entire time, and he just took control of the entire place. Anyway, we get rescued by the Little Sisters, as throughout the game we can rescue them or harvest them, aka killing them, for which Dr. Tannenbaum will thank us. We met her earlier in the game, it just wasn't relevant until now. Anyway, she basically eliminates part of the genetic code we have implanted, but not entirely, so we need to get rid of what's left. So we do, and now it's time to fight Fontaine. But he runs away, and the only way to get where he is with a little sister, so we need to become a Big Daddy. Now this is the best and also worst part in the game. We get every part needed, including the smell, don't ask, the boots, the helmet and the torso, and the voice modifier. Also, just check this out.
And
Yeah, so one thing with this game is that it doesn't automatically save until a new chapter starts, so you basically have to manually save as much as possible. That crash right there was like 2 hours of progress lost. Fun. I almost quit, but thankfully the second time it took me like 10 minutes. Anyway, worst section of the game incoming. You know that cliche that some games use, where you have to escort something or somebody from point A to point B, but between those two they stop a number of times, usually 3, just to make you hold the fort for a couple of minutes? This is basically that, and I'm pretty sure my first little sister bugged because she didn't move for way too long. Anyway, tedious section aside, it's final boss time. And I don't know how I'm gonna edit this, but I wanna make it like a Doom edit. So, enjoy, I guess. Oh, he died. Yeah, the guy generally dies way too fast. I mean, the shotgun is busted, but wow. Anyway, the game has multiple endings. You see how the Lister sisters jump him? Well, you can either take them with you, and they basically grow to be full adults and even be with you on your deathbed, which is what happens when you rescue all of them. If you kill some or all of them, a nuclear submarine finds the wreckage, and all its passengers get killed by splicers, and they take control of it. And that's really it. Very simple story, it works, it's told very well, especially in the visual aspect, like the game design, which I just realized that I didn't comment on, is insanely good. It's the 60s, but you can feel the 60s combination with a cyberpunk underwater setting, and it works extremely well. And that's all I can say about Bioshock 1, like the game has a remaster, yes, but it still feels like a 2007 game, it's very clunky at times. And as with any quote-unquote modern remaster, the game works like shit. I didn't have it crash more than once, but some people have had it crash constantly, same with Bioshock 2. I haven't started that one yet, so pray for me that it doesn't crash every 2 seconds. And you know what? Because I treated this like a full game review, let's just give it a rating. All in all, I would say this is a 9 out of 10 game, as long as you know what you're getting into. If you think you're gonna get 2020 gameplay, you aren't. Besides that, fantastic game. Also, did you know that the game was so successful, the Smithsonian Institute held an exhibit dedicated to the art of video games and Bioshock was among the winners? I mean, it's not surprising, the best part of the game is its design. The phrase "would you kindly" actually became a symbol in gaming, and at the time it was one of the biggest plot twists ever. Funnily enough, they were going to make a remake of the game, but they cancelled it this year, sadly. Anyway, let's start with Bioshock 2, because I want to get to Infinite, because that game has a lot more to say about it than the previous ones. So, after the... I don't want to say massive, because it wasn't like super big, but it was still big enough, like in 3 years it sold like 4 million copies, that's pretty good. So after that, some higher-ups from 2K decided to create a sequel. The idea was pitched, but they were actually denied by the team that made Bioshock 1. Instead, a different team was made for Bioshock 2. Now come the stupid demands. 2.5 years of development, multiplayer mode, and that it would ship for PlayStation 3. 2K Marine, the team that was created, worked alongside 2K Australia, 2K China, Digital Extremes, and Arcane Studios. Yes, the people that made Warframe developed the multiplayer of Bioshock 2. The biggest changes with this sequel were the story, the places you visit, and some game mechanics and controls. For example, you no longer have to switch between plasmids and weapons. Instead, one hand handles the plasmids and the other the weapons. Though it does make switching a bit clunky once you get too many weapons. Another big thing changed, which I didn't mention in part 1, was the puzzles for hacking. Originally, you had this board of tubes that you had to connect to an exit, and it was quite annoying because sometimes they were actually impossible, like straight up impossible. I will try to find that clip because I remember it being straight up not possible. So they changed that to a timed event that's extremely easy. So I didn't find the clip, but I did find this image on Reddit. Granted, the reason they were impossible is because you don't have equipped the tonic to make them easier. But that should not be a requirement to complete them. It should only make them easier, not doable. Another improvement they made is that instead of just killing the big daddies and either saving or harvesting the little sisters, you can adopt them or harvest them. Adopting them makes you able to harvest 2 bodies with them, which obviously gives you more Adam. Everything else is pretty much the same. The game was officially revealed through a trailer hidden in the PS3 version of Bioshock in 2008, and it ended up becoming an ARG, funnily enough. You guys remember ARGs? Like the one with Cloverfield, or whatever that movie was called? Though thankfully this one is not as convoluted and is very straight to the point. I still have nightmares about that video. I'm not gonna explain the ARG, mostly because it has nothing to do with either of the games. Anyway, in 2010 the game came out, and it was a huge success. People obviously criticized it, quote unquote, because it was too similar to the original, but I'm gonna be honest. It's similar but distinct enough that it feels worthy of being a sequel. By March 2010, a month after its release, it had sold 3 million copies, while Bioshock 1 was sitting at 4 million at the same time. That's a massive jump in sales. Let's get into the story, shall we? The story for this one is a lot more, I don't want to say convoluted, but there's many more important things happening. The story starts with us from the point of view of a big daddy with a little sister. While she is being harassed by some people, we defend her and then get mind controlled by this lady. This is Sophia Lamb. And she tells us to kill ourselves in front of her little sister. We are Subject Delta, the first big daddy ever to be paired with a little sister, funnily enough. That was in 1958, 2 years before the events of Bioshock 1. Suddenly, we jump to the future, and it is now 1968, 10 years later. Don't worry, the game explains how we are here. Our objective? To rescue that little sister from 10 years ago. Who's helping us? Tannenbaum, of course, who we actually see the face of. And then she lives again and introduces us to Sinclair, our atlas for this game. And by this, I mean the guy that's guiding us, not that he is bad or anything. Also, Tannenbaum is never heard of or seen again, in this game or the next one. Anyway, with the logs throughout the game, we find out that Lamb was brought to Rapture to basically be a therapist for those people struggling with underwater life, but she ended up creating a cult, known as The Family. What a boring name. Couldn't you come up with something better, lady? Now here's where the things get a bit confusing. So Lamb at one point starts winning against Andrew Ryan in debates and whatnot, so he has Sinclair deal with her. He uses a guy called Stanley Poole to be a mole and compromise Lamb, which gets her arrested, leaving her daughter Eleanor, the little sister at the beginning, with Grace Holloway. At one point, Eleanor decides to confront Stanley about how he bankrupts Sophia, but he panics and sells her to one of Fontaine's orphanages, and she turns into a little sister. And those are all the people you need to know for now. Throughout the game, as with the previous one, you will go to an area, do a bunch of tasks there, get out, rinse and repeat. In this case, with actual decisions, and I don't mean the little sister, which was also in the previous game. The first person we find is Grace, actually. She believes in Lamb a bit too much, if you ask me, so she thinks we kidnap Eleanor and transform her into a little sister. Anyway, we need her key to keep going, so we get it, and we can decide whether to kill her or not. Let's be honest, she's the one that deserves to die the least, like she straight up was lied to. The second guy is a pastor called Simon Wales. He shoots our train with a torpedo. Yes, that's a sentence I just said. And our objective is to get to Sinclair by draining Dionysius Park, our next stop. Oh, this one is a mandatory kill, by the way, he is not important to the story. Anyway, the third guy is Poole. He is the reason we became the way we were, and he basically is pretty much undercover, or at least he thinks he is. He wants us to get rid of the little sisters around the place, so we do. But oh no, turns out that Lamb actually knew all along about everything. So again, we have the choice to kill him or not. I decided not to and leave him to his luck. But we'll get to the decision later. Finally, we have Gilbert Alexander, or Alex the Great. He is delusional, not my words mind you, his words. Throughout his stage, he tells us that he has consumed such an insane amount of Adam that he is gonna go insane in the near future, which he did. Anyway, we need a key from him and his genetic code, as it is needed to access the final room. There, we find Eleanor finally, but Lamb is there as well. So she suffocates Eleanor with a pillow long enough for the bonding between little sister and Big Daddy to take effect. It basically stops our heart and she captures us. Once awake, she gives us a plasmid that allows us to control a little sister. And that's how she managed to save us for 10 years, and how she has kept an eye on us all this time. We also get the point of view of a little sister, which is pretty cool, and explain why they are so happy all the time. Anyway, our objective is to get 3 pieces of armor, similar to those of Bioshock 1, to turn Eleanor into a big sister. No, not Big Daddy, big sister. The big sister is basically the new boss of this game. It's faster and more annoying than a Big Daddy, and they are also the bosses that appear once you save or harvest all the little sisters of a zone, which is something new they added into the game, which is pretty cool. Anyway, she turns into one, we get her plasmid, and we can use it to summon her. Our objective then is to get into Sinclair's boat. But wait, where's Sinclair? Well, turns out that Lamb doesn't want Eleanor to leave, as she is supposed to be the first utopian, as she calls it. She would have the intelligence of multiple individuals. Anyway, we are forced to kill Sinclair. I thought they were gonna hit us with a double whammy here, you know, in Bioshock 1, Atlas betrayed us, so the developers will think that we will think that Sinclair won't betray us. Therefore, he's gonna betray us. But no, he was just a good dude. Good in quotations, as good as any person can be in this world. Anyway, we are forced to kill him and we leave in a hurry as Lamb has planted bombs to detonate the place we are in and send us to the bottom of the trench. Once we get to the pod, I keep saying boat because I believe the game says boat, even though it's on the water. An explosion on the door mortally wounds us, and then we get the ending.
And then, Father, the rapture dream was over. You taught me that evil is just a word. Under the skin, it's simple pain. For you, mercy was victory. You sacrificed, you endured, and when given the chance, you forgave. Always. Mother believed this world was irredeemable, but she was wrong, Father. We are Utopia, you and I, and in forgiving, we left the door open for her. The rapture dream is over, but in waking, I am reborn. This world is not ready for me, yet here I am. It would be so easy to misjudge them. You are my conscience, Father, and I need you to guide me. You will always be with me now, Father. Your memories, your drives. And when I need you, you'll be there on my shoulder, whispering. If Utopia is not a place, but a people, then we must choose carefully, for the world is about to change. And in our story, Rapture was just the beginning.
The game has like 8 endings, I kid you not. The endings don't change that much, like big endings, there's 3 of them. It's just small things that happen in them that change. Just know that either Eleanor and the little sisters will survive while preserving Delta, only Eleanor will survive while not preserving Delta, and she is quite sad, or only Eleanor will survive and she becomes basically a villain. That's the 3 big ones. Anyway, this game is fantastic. Except for the story, everything is better in this game, especially the gameplay. Sadly, it's a shorter game and it does have a DLC called Minerva's Den, which is pretty good. Also, I say one DLC, but it has like 7, but the others are very minor compared to that one. Anyway, if I gave the first one a 9, I would give this one the same mark, as yes, it's better in pretty much every aspect, but it's shorter and the story is worse. Granted, it's hard to make a better story than Bioshock 1, because that game has a masterfully written story. But still, hey, not that the main story in this game is bad, it's not, it's amazing. It just wasn't as good as the first one, simple as that. So it's a bit of bias towards the story of the first game that I give it the same mark. Also, the game crashed in the pool section and I lost like an hour of progress. I fucking hate this. So, funnily enough, because the team that made Bioshock 2 was a different team, the original team that made the first one made Infinite. So they took 5 years to make it. They thought for some reason that Rapture was too limiting, so they moved from the bottom of the ocean to the sky, and we are now in Colombia, a floating city created by Zachary Comstock and the founders, and the city is currently in a civil war against the Vox Populi, led by Daisy Fitzroy. They managed to get Troy Baker to voice the protagonist of the game, Booker DeWitt, and it shows, so that's pretty cool. So, the graphics for this game were improved, though not by an insane amount. The animations are better, the gameplay is better, though it doesn't distance itself too far from the one of Bioshock 2. There's very minor improvements, the biggest one being the new hooking system. It's more of a movement thing and it's not that useful later down the line. Also, you can sprint now, because you couldn't before. And honestly, there's not much to say right now, because once we end with the story, there's some things to say about third-party events that happen due to this game. So let's just get into the story. Okay, so, the story for this game. I have been thinking for days now how to write this and how to explain it, and I'm just gonna go in the order the game presents itself, because if you have played this game, it's just a clusterfuck. We are Booker DeWitt, and the game starts with us on a boat, and the game telling us through flashbacks that we are going somewhere to get a girl. These 2 people in front of us kind of finish each other's sentences. Anyway, we get out of the boat and the man says this.
He's not moving!
He will, eventually.
Suppose he does.
Symbolism. We get to the top of the tower and we take a rocket to Colombia. Once there, we meet with a priest that tells us that to enter we must be reborn. Symbolism. And so we do. And we are now in our new city of Colombia, led by Zachary Comstock, with other characters like Jeremiah Fink serving under him. So at one point we see that the letters AD we have in our hand are the symbol for the Antichrist. Bit coincidental if you ask me. Oh yes, also, symbolism. We get to the raffle of July 6th, led by Jeremiah Fink, and we win it. Our prize? To hit these 2 with a baseball bat. Why? Well, it's 1912, 46 years prior to the first game. And, well, I'm not gonna say anything right now. So what did these 2 do? Well, she's a black woman. You can guess the rest. By the way, the game doesn't talk about these problems ever again. I don't know why this is here. So, chaos ensues, and we run to the tower where the girl we must rescue is. She is called Elizabeth, and as you can see here, she can open these stairs in space to other places, other worlds. By this point, you know where this is going. So, we rescue her, but this gigantic bird tries to stop us, called Songbird, and he appears when you play a song with the correct instrument. We land on a beach. A fake beach, but a beach nonetheless. And we wake up saying Anna. I think at this time we had already told Liz that we had a wife that died during childbirth, and our baby died with her, so who is Anna? We can only assume it was our wife. Anyway, symbolism. We get to the First Lady, and in there we set direction to New York, instead of the planned Paris that we had told Liz, as we want to settle our debt. So she knocks us out, and we wake up to the ship being seized by the Vox Populi. Daisy tells us that she will help us if we get her weapons. So we go there. Turns out that the guy that made the weapons died while being tortured, so we go to his cell and these two twins appear. These two have appeared a couple of times already, once when we arrived in Colombia, another when we start fleeing, and now here, so that is 100% not a coincidence. Also, they pull the cliché of a character disappearing. Anyway, they show us a tear, and in that tear, Mr. Lin, as the Smith is called, is not there, so that means he's alive, so we cross to that world. He is in fact alive there, but his tools have been seized. Also, he is acting strange along other people we killed along the way, because their memories are getting merged, and they are bleeding through the nose. Eh? Get it? Symbolism. Anyway, we must get his tools back, so we go to the police and his tools are in fact there. So we open another tear where they aren't inside. Inside this last tear, Booker sacrificed himself for the Vox Populi, and the couple that made the weapons was killed. At this point, I'm guessing you have an inkling of where this is going, although the plot twist for this game is actually pretty good. We'll get there. We try and get the ship back, but then Daisy notices us and says that her Booker died, so we're either a ghost or a fake. We get to her, and she kills Jeremiah Fink, and she's about to kill the child. So we boost Elizabeth and distract Daisy, and Liz kills her with a pair of scissors. So we get on the ship, but it gets crashed again. Suddenly the twins appear again playing Songbird's song, and they tell us that it is the correct song, but not the correct instrument. And from here on out, this is a fucking mess of a plot, so bear with me. These two are not twins. They are the same person from two different realities, brought to the same world but the abilities created by the female version, which is from this universe. Comstock had actually used this so much for his prophecies he became sterile. So he tries to find a successor from another dimension and gets Elizabeth. Obviously, at one point, Comstock gets conspiratory and he tries to kill the twins and his wife. The twins then get the same powers as Liz and they can travel through space and time. That's why they are everywhere. So once inside Comstock's house, Songbird appears and captures Elizabeth. We cross the bridge and suddenly it's snowy, and we hear through the comm and radios that Elizabeth has followed in her father's footsteps. So we think, where and when are we? So it turns out that Elizabeth from this world pulled us in after decades of torture to stop that future from happening to our Liz. And we see the dream of the destroyed New York we had before. I didn't show it because we have enough symbolism already. So this new Elizabeth gives us something to stop Songbird. As in every attempt in that world, he will stop us from saving Liz. We go back to our world, rescue Elizabeth, and go to Comstock in his ship. We infiltrate it and we confront him, and he tells us something. He tells us...
Ask him, child. Ask him what happened to your finger. Ask DeWitt.
Let go of me.
Ask him. Ask the false shepherd. Tell her. Tell her, false shepherd. Tell her the truth.
My hand.
Tell her. Tell
Please
her
let
about
go.
her finger.
She's your daughter, you son of a bitch! And you abandoned her! Was it worth it? Huh? Did you get what you wanted?
Booker.
Tell me!
Booker.
Tell me!
It is finished.
Nothing is finished!
Booker.
You lock her up for her whole life!
Booker.
You cut off her finger, and you put it on me!
Booker, stop it! You killed him.
But we obviously don't know anything about that. Well, not really, this is just plot. Anyway, Elizabeth says we do know, we just don't remember, and we start breathing again. So anyway, we use the bird to destroy the siphon that's using Liz's power to learn the truth, so she gets back her full power, and here comes the plot twist. And bear with me here, there are infinite worlds, hence the title. There's a concept in physics that says that everything happens everywhere at all times, meaning in one world it might be 1912, in another it might be 1958, in one world someone is dead, in another they aren't. So at one point through all of this, the first thing we visit is actually the start of the first game, like the literal first area, which is kinda cool. Anyway, at one point we come across the same priest we saw at the beginning, and we begin to revive, quote unquote. But we deny it, and Elizabeth tells us that we denied it, emphasis on the we, on the us. Next we go to Booker's room that we have flashbacks throughout the entire game, and we see who asked us for the girl, and it was the male Lute's twin. And inside the other room is a little girl. We forgot her existence at one point, and I'm gonna explain why now. So we go through more doors, and then we get to the scene where we struggle with Comstock and Anna, our daughter, loses her pinky. Yeah, Elizabeth is actually our daughter from a different world that came to this one 19 years ago when she was kidnapped by Comstock. So we decide to kill Comstock in every war possible, which Liz agrees to. But then suddenly we are back at the priest, and we get the plot twist, which I'm just gonna let it play out.
Why are we back here?
This isn't the same place, Booker.
Of course it is. I remember. Wait. You're not. You're not. Who are you?
You chose to walk away, but in other oceans, you didn't. You took the baptism. You were born again as a different man.
Comstock.
It all has to end. To have never started. Not just in this world, but in all of ours.
Smother him in the crab.
Smother, 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 smother. Before the choice is made. Before you are reborn.
Name should you take my son?
He's Zachary Comstock. He's Booker DeWitt.
No. I'm both.
Yeah, in this world, Booker DeWitt found God after the war for which he felt guilty. You know, PTSD. He changed his name and with the help of Lady Lutece founded Columbia. But because he became sterile, he decided to kidnap his daughter from another world. At one point, the Lutece twins thought to use us, Booker DeWitt, to go to Columbia and rescue Elizabeth, so that any future where things go alright don't happen. So the game ends with all of those Elizabeth killing Booker DeWitt and stopping, allegedly, every Comstock from existing. At this point you have many questions. The first one being, what the fuck just happened, which, same. And the second one being, okay, very cool and all, but why is this called Bioshock? Well, because Bioshock sells well, and because it has the same gameplay, that's it. Otherwise there is zero connection to Rapture, as this is a different timeline. What is that? So this game has 2 DLCs. Before we even begin to talk about them, they fucking suck. You will see why. So the first one is like 2 hours long. Booker is actually a detective working in Rapture now, and suddenly Elizabeth is here. You see this model? Well, engrave it in your brain, because we're gonna talk about it later. Anyway, our objective is to save a girl called Sally. She's just a random girl that basically became the protagonist's foster daughter, at least he felt that way. She was kidnapped while Booker was winning in the casino as he took her there. Anyway, stuff happens, Cohen from the first game actually appears, and just when we're about to get Sally, another plot twist. So again, throughout the DLC we had small flashbacks to the water mirror when we killed Comstock, because newsflash, we are not Booker DeWitt, we are Comstock, although technically that's the same thing, but you know. And we fled to Rapture due to the incident, because in this world Elizabeth appeared when Comstock tried to kidnap Anna, and instead of her losing her pinky, she... well... Now this DLC was called Burial at Sea. This one's fine, it's super short, but it's nothing insane. Part 2 though, Jesus Christ. So part 2 involves Elizabeth meeting Atlas, and this DLC, I kid you not, retcons the entire timeline of Bioshock, including Bioshock Infinite. I do not want to talk about it because it was so bad I genuinely wanted to drop it. So yeah, Liz meets Atlas, they help each other as Atlas is trapped below. Liz gets the idea to use a tear, which by the way she doesn't have her powers because she actually died there, so she sent herself from another world to this one to do... well, you'll see. So anyway, we try to go to Columbia and get a floating particle to lift the entire thing. Yes, lift like 2000 tons, don't ask. It is revealed that Columbia and Rapture had contact. It's also revealed that Daisy never meant to kill the child. The Lutece brother just told her to act the part in the play, quote unquote. What else? Oh yeah, the reason Bioshock 1 happens is because the Elizabeth that died saw the future where Jack and all of it happens, so I guess she brought this Liz here without her powers to make sure the events of Bioshock 1 happen, which doesn't make sense because that's a paradox. Yeah, this DLC just sucks, I'm sorry. Speaking of this DLC just makes me angry, I genuinely don't want to say anything else, it's not good. Also it's more of a stealth game than Bioshock, it's just not good in any aspect. I treat it as non-canon, because Ken Levine, this piece of shit, said that this thing is canon. It's canon, people, you had that right. That introduces like 50 billion plot holes that I'm not gonna get to, because I'm sure you can just deduce yourself. Also, Liz gives Atlas the keyword, you know, would you kindly, and she dies. Yes, I don't know why she did that, because she didn't have her powers, so she just possibly doomed Rapture and she dies? Just like that? It's kinda funny and fucked up that after Bioshock Infinite ended, the trauma from getting her memories merged made Elizabeth stupid. Not desperate, not a different person, just stupid. Like she killed Anna, although that's technically her, in another world, just because she tried to stop the last Comstock. That's so stupid. Anyway, back to the important stuff. By July, 4 months after its release, it had sold 4 million copies, and by 2015 it had sold 11 million copies. So it sold like churros. So, did you guys know that this character and this particular scene helped develop Blender so much that it pretty much changed entirely? This is just based on rumors and basically a spike in animation, take this with a grain of salt, but I am a believer that this happened and nobody can change my mind. So you might be asking, well, what does Liz have to do with Blender? Well, she's a hot female character. You can put 2 and 2 together, right? Porn. I'm talking about porn. So much porn was trying to be created of this one single character that Blender got developed an insane amount. The team developing the game actually had a whole team dedicated just to her, giving her animations, multiple designs, which people stripped from the game and used, well, everywhere. It became Ken Levine's worst nightmare for like a couple of years. Like, the original character already had a lot of porn everywhere, you know, Rule 34 and whatnot, but once Burial at Sea came out and we got this femme fatale, you know, those numbers escalated a lot. There's this video by Slextorias where he says that Ken Levine left the gaming industry because of all the porn. And I completely agree. He left Irrational Games and he said that he did it because he was tired of making just Bioshock after Bioshock. But his new game is literally just Bioshock. Anyway, I'm exaggerating a bit, but the animations done during that time were improved a lot by characters like her. Whether it be SFM or Blender or any other 3D software, granted it might have been a joint effort, as Mass Effect 3 released that same year, and we all know how people act when they see a Mass Effect character. So yeah, it's kinda funny that Bioshock Infinite and Elizabeth had such a massive impact on 3D animation as a whole. Back to the game. I consider this one to be the worst one of the 3, because, and only because, Burial at Sea exists, and it's canon. If it didn't exist and Ken Levine hadn't opened his mouth, this would probably be the second best, the best one obviously being the original one. So you might be saying, well, just treat it as non-canon, and I do, but it still hurts knowing that there is a canon piece created by the original writer that's so bad you can't help but ignore. Since then, no video games have been made, at least not ones called Bioshock. Again, Judas was supposed to come out this year, but yeah, it's nowhere to be seen. Bioshock Infinite created an insane amount of mixed reviews, especially coming from later fans who bought the game with the complete edition and played both DLCs, but still, it was a massive success. I'm surprised they haven't made another. Granted, I don't really know what they would say, but look at the ass pull they pulled with Infinite. Ken Levine did say in an interview that Bioshock wasn't a world, but an idea, which I mean, that's a dangerous road to go down, my friend. I really enjoyed this trilogy, and because I didn't have this idea in the first video, I'm gonna start ranking them. Mass Effect will have its own tier, I'm gonna put it there at the top in its own category. Everything else will go from S to like F or something, I don't know. I don't think I will fail any of these trilogies I have in mind. Where does the Bioshock trilogy belong? In S tier, let's not kid ourselves, this was 3 masterpieces back to back. Like, you can criticize the DLCs of the last game, but the base games are perfect. All 3 of them. So yeah, not much else to say. See you in the next video, which I don't know what it will be about. Maybe it will be a part 3 of this series, or maybe I will just make a random video. In any case, you can take this portal and go to a different world and just check there. Am I the only person that throughout the entire playthrough of Infinite couldn't take Comstock's name seriously? Like, it sounds too close to Comstock, and it's just funny.